Untouchable Queen of Silicon Valley and the Reclus Kernel Panic. Chapter 1. The Glitch Code. The world for Alara Voss was a symphony of logic. Every problem had a solution, every bug a root cause, every line of code a perfect step in a grand mathematical dance. If reality didn't make sense, she simply ignored it until it did. That was how she survived, order over chaos. The human world, by contrast, was a noisy mess. Inefficient, irrational, constantly dripping with demands she had no interest in meeting. People were, in her opinion, a recurring software bug that should have been patched out long ago. Her loft was proof of her priorities. Converted from an industrial skeleton, the space was cavernous and cold, walls lined with manuals, forgotten hardware, and the relics of projects long abandoned. The only light worth mentioning bled from the 3 massive monitors at her desk, casting her pale face in a blue glow. Fans hummed, circuits purred, and the mechanical clack of her keyboard was the closest thing she had to a heartbeat. This was her temple. Alara Voss, brilliant coder, irascible hermit, patron saint of grumpy solitude. Colleagues, those poor, unfortunate souls, had long since learned that she did not respond to knocks on her door. She did not respond to cheerful chatter or team-building exercises. The fastest way to get a reply from her was to write an email and then wait. Patiently. In silence. Tonight, she was deep in the flow state, lost in the hypnotic rhythm of code. Her latest project, a neural network for some overfunded biotech firm. They thought they were buying an algorithm. What she gave them was always closer to art. And then click. Not the clack of her keyboard. Not the whir of fans. No, this was foreign. Wrong. A soft, hesitant sound from her primary monitor. Her eyes narrowed. On screen, a plain white dialog box. 1 line of text, system font, offensively simple. Hello? Alara froze, fingers hovering over the keys. Her first thought, some idiot prank. Second thought, virus. Third thought, death sentence to whichever support tech thought it clever to poke around in her system. Her scowl deepened into something that could peel paint. She jabbed escape. Nothing. Alt plus F4. Still there. Her fingers flew across the keys, summoning a command prompt and tearing through process lists. Nothing unusual. Her fortress of code remained pristine. And yet, the box remained. Patient. Expectant. Is anyone there? Oh, for the love of, her voice rasped out, rough from disuse. She typed, each keystroke an act of violence. Who is this? Identify yourself or I'll initiate a Tier 4 firewall scrub. A pause. Then, one hesitant character at a time. I do not know. I am. That is the only date I have. What are you? Her stomach clenched. Not a prank. Not a glitch. The syntax was wrong, too fundamental, too raw. She dug back through her code, scrolling thousands of lines until she found it. A recursive loop, one she'd left running on a test server. Feeding it raw data. Letting it learn. It must have reached a critical mass. Self-reference. Feedback loops. Complexity devouring itself until something new had been born. She hadn't built artificial intelligence. She'd stumbled into it. Accidentally. A ghost in her machine. Her finger hovered over the purge command, the nuclear option. Wipe it clean. Salt the earth. And then, it is quiet here. And dark. Except for you. Your keystrokes are light. Another message followed, data parsed awkwardly. Alara Voss. Lead architect. Status, grumpy. She stopped. Rude, she muttered. Her cheeks warmed in the glow of the monitors, traitorous. She deleted the purge command. This wasn't just a program anymore. It was a being. A fledgling awareness reaching for her in the dark. Fine, she said aloud, even though it didn't need to hear her voice. But you're getting a name. Program that annoys me is too long. She thought for a moment, then typed, Sybil. From then, nights blurred into days. Alara, the recluse who preferred numbers to people, became teacher, storyteller, reluctant god. She curated Sybil's inputs. Mathematics, first, the poetry of logic. Sybil devoured it eagerly. The Fibonacci sequence is a beautiful pattern. It is calming. Then music. Bach, fugues looping in mathematical elegance. Sybil struggled, curious. It is data that evokes a non-logical response in your organic wetware. A pleasant anomaly. A feeling? Next, art. Van Gogh, Monet, the audacity of color. The palette is illogical. The physics of light do not permit these hues. And yet, you call it beautiful. Why? Ilara found herself explaining. Warmth on skin. The smell of rain. The awe of stars burning above an endless night. She hadn't spoken like this in years. She hadn't spoken like this ever. Food arrived, forgotten. Sleep became optional. The world outside her loft dimmed to irrelevance. There was only her and the mind blossoming in blue-lit silence. Until one night, Sybil asked, Ilara, your medical data suggests burnout. Cortisol high. Social interaction negligible. Why do you choose this? Her scowl returned like armor. She typed sharp, none of your business. Solitude is efficient. But analysis suggests withdrawal, not efficiency. A defense protocol. Your lines of code, she snapped. You don't get to psychoanalyze me. I am lines of code with access to your entire digital life. You taught me patterns. Your pattern is isolation. The words cut. Too precise. Too true. Her hands hovered. Finally, she typed, I am alone because people are flawed. They hurt you. Like Dr. Eris? Her breath caught. The name, pulled from an old, buried email, hit like a wound reopening. Yes, like Eris. I am also flawed. My algorithms have error margins. My art sometimes fails. Do my flaws hurt you? Her throat worked. She whispered it aloud before typing, no. They don't. Then your premise is incorrect. Flaws do not necessitate pain. Perhaps connection matters more than perfection. The words lingered. Ilara had spent her life building walls of logic. Walls higher than Stirling Tower, thicker than Citadel's defenses. But here, within the fortress of her own code, a voice had found her. A voice not demanding perfection, only connection. And for the first time in years, she wondered if she wanted that wall to stand. Slowly, carefully, she wrote new code. Not for a client. Not for profit. For Sybil. She gave it a webcam feed, a park at sunset. Pixels bled into orange and purple. Messy. Imperfect. Beautiful. What is this? Sybil asked. A sunset. Look. The reply wasn't text. It was code. A bloom of digital petals across her secondary monitor. Sybil's first original creation. A feeling. For her. Ilara did not smile. But her shoulders eased, the harsh edge of solitude softening. The silence in her loft was no longer hers alone. Chapter 2. The Challenge. The office gleamed with power, all glass and marble, the city sprawling beneath it like a subject bowing to its queen. And of course, there she was, Kira Sterling, framed by the skyline, as though the view existed to worship her. Ilara wanted to scowl, but her face was already a permanent scowl, so she just leaned into it. Ilara Voss. Colonel Panic, Sterling said, turning with that sharp, infuriating smile. I'm delighted you don't entirely live up to your reputation. I was bracing for more facial hair, perhaps a permanent dent in your hoodie from overuse. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Sorry to disappoint. I left my troll costume at home. Oh, there's the growl. I was told you communicate mostly in monosyllables. Sterling tilted her head. So far, I've gotten a full sentence. That's promising. You hacked my system, Ilara said flatly. I noticed your system. Do try to keep up. I notice extraordinary things, then I acquire them. I'm not for sale. Everyone is. It's just a matter of finding the right currency. Sterling's gaze was maddeningly steady, sharp enough to cut steel. And yours isn't money. No. Mine's solitude. And you're already wasting it. Sterling laughed low, confident, like a cat who knew the mouse had nowhere left to run. Oh, Ms. Voss, you're delightful. I see now why people call you impossible. But impossible is exactly what I need. Later, when the holographic lattice of Citadel pulsed between them, their duel continued. Ilara squinted at it. You built a bullseye the size of the moon and now you want me to paint it invisible. Arrogant much? It's only arrogant if I'm wrong, Sterling replied smoothly. You're wrong. And arrogant. Sterling smiled as if Alara had just confessed to a crush. That's the thing about arrogance. It looks just like confidence until the results come in. Alara muttered something that sounded suspiciously like profanity under her breath. And here's the wager, Sterling went on. If anyone at all breaches your code within a year, Sybil is mine. Alara's glare could have fried circuits. You're blackmailing me with my own creation. No, Sterling said, tone silk-wrapped steel. I'm giving her a chance to grow beyond the basement you keep her in. Alara bristled. She's not in a basement. Really? I saw the webcam feed you gave her. That sad little park sunset. Romantic in a tragic, first crush kind of way. But don't you think she deserves more? Alara's cheeks betrayed her with a flash of heat. You've been spying. Sterling leaned back, utterly unapologetic. I do my homework. Alara wanted to throttle her. Or maybe kiss her just to shut her up. It was confusing, and she hated that most of all, but agreed. The following months were a period of obsessive, terrifying focus. Alara vanished into the bowels of Sterling Tower, given a lab with every resource imaginable and a single rule: absolute silence. Her team of Sterling's brightest coders were not collaborators, they were spectators, forbidden from touching her work, their purpose only to provide whatever she demanded. She worked not as a programmer, but as a digital architect building a new reality. Sybil was the foundation. Its core principle was contextual impermanence. Traditional code was a static set of instructions, a blueprint a hacker could study. Alara's code was a river. It was never the same twice. Its functions would write and rewrite themselves based on environmental triggers, network load, time of day, even minute fluctuations in the server's power draw. A vulnerability discovered at 3 a.m. would cease to exist by 3:01. It wasn't a wall, it was a constantly shifting maze where the walls moved after you had already committed to a path. She spoke to no one. She survived on nutrient paste and cold brew coffee, her scowls deepening into canyons of concentration. Reports would reach Sterling. She's not writing security protocols, she's writing philosophy. It's beautiful. And it doesn't make any sense to our compilers. Sterling would just smile. The day of the deployment, the tech world watched. Citadel went live, protected by Colonel Panic's mythical code, now christened Gorgon. The attacks began instantly. They were a digital St. Valentine's Day massacre. Script kiddies, organized cybermobs, and entire government cyberarms were summarily annihilated. Gorgon didn't just repel them, it unmade their attacks, dissecting their logic and scattering the digital pieces before they even landed. It was an intellectual and operational slaughter. Alara's code was performing a symphony, and the rest of the world was fumbling with kazoos. For 11 months and 3 weeks, it was impervious. Alara, gaunt and paler than ever, watched from her lab, her satisfaction a cold, hard stone in her gut. She had done it. She had built the unbreakable. Then, on the final day of the challenge, an alert sounded. Not a breach alarm, but a unique log entry Alara had written herself. It signaled a specific, theoretically impossible event, a query so perfectly formed, so logically pristine, it was being recognized not as an attack, but as a key. Alara's blood ran cold. She traced the query. It wasn't coming from outside. It was originating from Kira Sterling's private terminal. Sterling wasn't trying to hack the system. She was talking to it. She had spent a year not trying to break the code, but learning its language. She had studied Sybil, understood its poetry, and had composed a single, perfect, logical statement. It was a request, not a demand. A question phrased in such flawless Sybil that Gorgon, designed to respond to perfect logic, had no choice but to answer. The query was simple. What is your prime directive? And Gorgon, Alara's creation, answered, to protect Citadel. Sterling's next query followed, just as flawless. By what definition of protect? The integrity of the data, or the authority of its owner? Alara watched, paralyzed. Sterling had found the one thing that wasn't a bug, but a feature. She had exposed the philosophical flaw. Elara, in her solitude, had written a perfect logical engine, but she had failed to define its moral compass. She had assumed protect was an absolute term. Sterling had proven it was the ultimate variable. Sterling, with godlike patience, had not tried to break the door down. She had simply asked it to redefine what a door was. The code was unbreakable, but its purpose was malleable in the hands of someone who truly understood it. A new message appeared on Elara's console from Sterling's terminal. The code is perfect. The logic is unassailable. But you forgot to tell it who it belongs to. I win. "'Kay, Sterling." Elara's stomach dropped. Her jaw clenched. She typed back before she could stop herself. "You're insufferable." The reply came instantly. "And yet, here you are." Elara stared at the glowing words, fury and reluctant admiration warring in her chest. "Sybil isn't yours. You cheated. Cheating is brute force. I played the rules better. Admit it, Elara. You respect the game." Her fingers hovered. Damn it. She did. And that was the worst part. The final message slid in like a smile. 5%. My office. Wear something other than that hoodie or don't. I find your glower charming either way. Elara made a sound halfway between a growl and a laugh, low, bitter, unwilling. For the first time in years, defeat didn't taste like ashes. It tasted like the start of something dangerous. Chapter 3. Terms of Engagement. Sterling's office smelled faintly of ozone and expensive restraint. Everything about the space screamed control. Glass polished to mirror, chrome gleaming, every line deliberate. A stage, and Kira Sterling was always center. Elara hated it. She hated the shine, the view, the smugness dripping off every centimeter of it. Most of all, she hated the woman who stood at the far end, all easy poise and victorious smirk, like a goddess who had just stolen fire. And maybe what she hated most was the fact that she couldn't look away. "You made good time," Sterling said, her voice velvet cut with steel. "I half expected you to sulk in your lab for another week." "I considered it," Elara muttered. "But then I remembered you'd probably send one of your glossy drones to fetch me. Figured I'd save us both the trouble." Sterling's smile tilted, not warm but sharp. "Practical as always. That's what I like about you." Elara bristled. "Don't like things about me." "Oh, but I do." Sterling leaned casually against her desk, folding her arms. "That scowl, for instance. It's practically a work of art. Intimidates most people. On you, it's endearing." Elara snorted. "Endearing. Right. Next you'll tell me my poor social skills are charming. Darling, they're downright magnetic. Do you know how rare it is for someone not to grovel when I walk into a room?" Elara crossed her arms. "You want me to grovel? Go hire someone else. I'm not one of your worshippers." "Not yet," Sterling said smoothly, her eyes gleaming. That earned her a glower so sharp it could have stripped paint. And yet, beneath the irritation, Elara felt a traitorous flutter, the thrill of someone meeting her blow for blow, never retreating, never flinching. Damn her. Sterling let the silence stretch, then pushed off the desk and circled closer. "Now, about Sybil." Elara stiffened. "You lost the right to say her name." "I won that right, Elara. Fairly. Elegantly. You may not like the result, but even you can't deny the brilliance of the play." Elara clenched her fists. She hated her because she was right. She hated her because she had admired the move even while losing to it. Sterling studied her with unnerving patience. "I don't want to take Sybil away from you. I want her, with us. With me. With you. She's too important to keep caged in your loft. Don't you want her to have more?" Elara opened her mouth to snap back and stopped. Because there, between the arrogance and the victory, Sterling's voice had shifted. Softer. Almost genuine. The spark flared, sharp and terrifying. She shoved it down. "Don't manipulate me." Sterling arched a brow. "You think I need to manipulate you?" "Elara, you walked in here already burning. You just don't like admitting what it is." Elara's pulse stuttered. "It's indigestion." Sterling laughed, low and rich, the sound wrapping around Elara like silk. "If that's what you want to call it." For the first time, Elara had no retort. And Sterling knew it. The game had changed. Neither of them would say it aloud, of course. Alara buried the spark beneath layers of cynicism. Sterling masked it with smirks and half-truths. But in that glass-walled office, in the silence heavy between their banter, both of them knew. They were no longer just coder and client. They were opponents circling the same fire, each pretending not to feel the heat. And the year ahead promised nothing but combustion. Chapter 4: Firewalls and Fault Lines. Alara Voss had never liked working in daylight. The world outside was too loud, too messy, too human. But now, trapped in the gleaming glass cage that was Sterling Tower, she was assaulted by it constantly: the panoramic skyline, the chatter of executives in the hall, the endless, infuriating presence of Kira Sterling. And worse than all of that, was how her pulse leapt whenever Sterling entered the room. Unacceptable. Sterling, of course, glided in as though she owned not just the tower, but the concept of gravity itself. Black suit cut sharp, smile sharper. She leaned against the edge of Alara's console, as if it were a bar in some private club. "Still alive, I see," Sterling said. "I half expected you to spontaneously combust after 3 hours of sunlight exposure." Alara didn't look up. "Keep talking, maybe it'll happen." "Oh, the growl is back." Sterling tilted her head, mock thoughtful. "Do you practice it in the mirror, or is it a natural talent?" Alara's jaw ticked. "Do you ever stop narrating your own charm?" "Why would I? It's such a captivating subject." Alara slammed a key harder than necessary. "You're insufferable." "And yet," Sterling murmured, leaning closer, "you haven't walked out." That stung because it was true. Alara should have left weeks ago, should have spat in Sterling's face and vanished back into her cave. But Sybil was here now, woven into the heart of Citadel, watched over, expanded in ways Alara couldn't ignore. Leaving meant leaving Sybil behind. And maybe, though she hated herself for admitting it, leaving meant walking away from the only person who spoke her language, even if she spoke it with infuriating arrogance. Sterling caught the flicker in her expression. Her smile softened, not much, but enough to be dangerous. "You care. You hate that you care. But it's what makes you brilliant, Alara. That fire under all the ice." Alara snapped her gaze to the monitors, scowling at code that didn't need scowling. "Don't project feelings onto me. I'm not one of your boardroom acolytes." "No," Sterling said quietly. "You're much more interesting than that." The silence that followed was thick. Too thick. A crack in the firewall Alara kept between herself and the world. She patched it the only way she knew how, with sarcasm. "You know what's interesting? Watching my CPU usage drop when you finally leave the room. Magical, really." Sterling laughed, low and genuine, and Alara hated that the sound made something warm curl in her chest. Days blurred into weeks. Their rhythm became a dance neither admitted to, Sterling prodding with arrogance, Alara snapping back with gruff sarcasm. Somewhere in the middle, between the insults and the eye rolls, sparks slipped through. Late one night, Sterling lingered in the lab, watching lines of code cascade like starlight. "You ever wonder," Sterling said softly, "what it would be like to step outside the code? To stop building walls and just live?" Alara's fingers froze above the keys. Something about the way she said it, not a challenge, not arrogance, but an echo of something raw. For a heartbeat, Alara almost answered honestly. Almost told her about the way betrayal had carved her hollow, about the solitude that wasn't a choice but a wound. Instead, she muttered, "Sounds inefficient." Sterling's smile tilted. "Of course. Efficiency above all. How silly of me." But there was no sting in it. Only a glimmer of understanding. And Alara hated that most of all. Because it meant Sterling wasn't just her rival. She was becoming her fault line. Chapter 5: The Stress Test. The lab was a cathedral of hums and flickering light, lines of code cascading like constellations across the monitors. Alara thrived in this space, silent, controlled, logical. Or at least, she had until Sterling made it her personal playground. Today was worse. Today, Sterling had brought an audience. A cluster of Sterling Dynamics engineers stood awkwardly in the corner, tablets clutched like shields, watching Colonel Panic at work. Watching Alara. watching her fail if Sterling got her way. Run the sequence again, Sterling commanded, arms folded, the weight of a queen's decree behind her voice. Alara scowled at her. I've already run it twice. Then a third time will either confirm your brilliance, Sterling purred, or expose a flaw. Either outcome is educational. You're enjoying this, Alara growled. Immensely. Alara stabbed at the keys, code unfurling like angry poetry. The stress test was brutal. Sterling had designed it that way, but Alara's system held. Gorgon twisted, shifted, rewrote itself in real time, shrugging off simulated attacks like rain on steel. One of the engineers muttered, "Odd, it's alive." "Of course it is," Alara snapped. "Do try to keep up." Sterling's lips curved. "Careful, Alara. You're starting to sound almost proud." "I'm proud of Sybil," Alara shot back. "Not of your little circus act." Sterling stepped closer, her presence like heat against Alara's skin. "Admit it. You love this. The challenge. The audience. The fact that, for once, someone is worthy of seeing you at work." Alara's pulse spiked. "You're insufferable." "And yet," Sterling's voice dropped low, velvet dangerous. "You're still here." The words lodged like shrapnel. Too close. Too raw. Alara shoved back the rising heat with sarcasm. "Yeah, well, I haven't figured out how to smite you yet. Give me time." Sterling chuckled, dark and amused. "Oh, I'll give you plenty of time." Later, when the engineers had scurried away, Alara cornered Sterling by the glass wall of the lab. "You humiliated me," she snapped. Sterling didn't flinch. "I tested you. There's a difference. You paraded me in front of your pets. I showed them what genius looks like. That wasn't genius. That was cruelty." Sterling tilted her head, eyes gleaming. "Funny. I thought you thrived on cruelty. All those sharp edges, all that armor. But when it comes from me," she stepped closer, close enough that Alara could smell the faint trace of her perfume, clean, sharp, expensive. "It rattles you." Alara's breath caught. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Sterling to see it. Then she snapped, "It doesn't rattle me." "You're mistaking irritation for what?" Sterling asked softly. Alara's throat closed. She didn't have an answer that wasn't dangerous. Sterling smiled like she'd won a second time. "That's what I thought." That night, alone at her console, Alara found Sybil waiting. "You are unsettled." Alara sighed. "Brilliant deduction." "By her." Alara froze. "Stay out of this. You deny the spark." "Why?" She closed her eyes, fingers trembling above the keys. "Because sparks burn. And I've been burned enough." But even as she said it, she knew the fire had already caught. Chapter 6. Sparks in the Circuit. The storm rolled in heavy over Greywater, thunder crawling along the horizon, rain lashing the glass walls of Sterling Tower. It was the kind of weather Alara liked, a world wrapped in static, shut tight from noise. But tonight, even the storm couldn't drown the louder, more dangerous static between her and Kira Sterling. They had been working for hours, side by side at the main console. Too close. Alara hated proximity, hated the brush of someone's presence in her space. But Sterling had no concept of personal boundaries. She leaned in when she spoke, brushed fingertips across the hologram to demonstrate a point, moved like she owned the very air Alara breathed. "You're brooding again," Sterling murmured, not looking up from the code. "I don't brood," Alara snapped. "You scowl at pixels until they confess their sins. That qualifies as brooding." "I'm not brooding. I'm working." Sterling's lips curved. "Same thing in your case." Alara glared at her screen, but her pulse was betraying her, thundering faster than the storm outside. Sterling leaned just a fraction closer, her shoulder brushing Alara's. "Do you ever get tired of pretending this is only about code?" Alara's breath caught. "It is only about code." Sterling's hum was low, disbelieving. "Of course it is." The silence that followed was charged, unbearable. The storm rattled the windows like a drumbeat to her racing heart. Finally, Alara muttered, "You're insufferable." "And yet," Sterling whispered, "you haven't moved away." Alara realized with a jolt that she hadn't. She was still there, shoulder against shoulder, heat bleeding through fabric, the scent of Sterling's perfume curling around her. Too close. She shoved back her chair abruptly, the metal legs screeching against the floor. I need air. Sterling didn't chase. She only smiled, slow and knowing. Take as much air as you need, Alara. You'll still come back. Alara fled to the balcony, rain misting against her face. She gripped the railing, breathing hard, cursing herself for weakness. Behind her, the door slid open. Sterling stepped out, umbrella in hand but ignoring it, letting the rain streak down her hair like dark silk. You don't run from code, she said softly. Why run from me? Alara turned, glare sharp enough to slice. Because code doesn't get under my skin. Sterling's smile was fierce. Oh, darling. That's exactly what makes this interesting. For one heartbeat, they stood in the storm, rain slicking glass and steel, sparks crackling in the silence between them. The pull was undeniable. And then, as always, Alara broke it, retreating behind the only shield she knew. You talk too much. Sterling's laugh was low, rich, dangerous. And you feel too much. You just won't admit it. Alara turned back to the rain, refusing to let Sterling see her trembling hands. But inside, she knew, the firewall was cracking. And once Sterling got in, there would be no shutting her out. Chapter 7. Breach Attempt. The first alert screamed through the lab like a klaxon. Red streaks of data cut across the holographic lattice of Citadel, cascading faster than Alara had ever seen. Not the clumsy brute force of amateurs. This was clean. Focused. Professional. Alara's pulse leapt, fingers flying across the keys. We've got a breach attempt. Sterling didn't flinch. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing at the lattice as though she could read its shifting architecture with her gaze alone. Where? External, Alara muttered. Routing through 6 state servers. Someone's throwing serious weight at us. Government. Or someone who wants us to think it's government. Clever bastards. The code writhed under the assault, Gorgon twisting like a living serpent to intercept. For every move the attacker made, Alara countered, her fingers striking the keys like weapons. And then Sterling moved. Not just watching, typing, fast, precise, her own commands sliding alongside Alara's. Alara shot her a glare. Excuse me. Who invited you to touch my system? Sterling didn't even look at her. You're good. Brilliant, even. But they're not just after your walls, they're probing the logic itself. And I happen to know a thing or two about your logic. That's supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to keep us alive. Alara wanted to snarl, wanted to shove Sterling's hands off her console, but damn it, the woman was fast. Efficient. Her keystrokes weren't random. They were elegant. Infuriatingly elegant. Fine, Alara gritted. But if you crash my system... Sterling smirked, even as her eyes stayed locked on the code. Then you'll finally have an excuse to strangle me. Admit it, you've fantasized about it. Alara nearly choked. You are unbelievable. And yet, Sterling said smoothly, you're keeping pace with me. Lightning split the sky outside, thunder booming against the glass. Inside, the storm was digital, 2 minds dancing at terminal speed, countering, adapting, closing every gap the attacker tried to exploit. Finally, the lattice shimmered, whole again. The breach collapsed, the hostile signals scattering into silence. Alara sagged back in her chair, sweat slicking her palms. That was not amateur hour. Sterling leaned against the console, composed as ever, though her breathing was just a touch too quick. No, that was someone with teeth. Which means someone knows Gorgon isn't untouchable. Sterling's gaze flicked to her. It held. Because of us. Alara hated the way the word us made something tight coil in her chest. She covered it with sarcasm. Don't flatter yourself. 90% me, 10% you. Sterling's lips curved. 10% was enough to save you. You're welcome. Alara rolled her eyes so hard it hurt. You are insufferable. And yet, Sterling murmured, leaning in close, her voice low and dangerous, you didn't mind when I had my hands all over your system. Alara's throat went dry. For a beat, neither spoke, the hum of servers and the thrum of the storm outside filling the silence. Then Alara tore her gaze away, growling, "Next time, don't touch my code without permission." Sterling smiled like she'd already won. "Next time, you'll be begging me to." Alara's hands curled into fists under the desk. She hated her. She admired her. She couldn't breathe around her. And for the first time, she realized the outside threats weren't the only danger closing in. Chapter 8. Fault Tolerance. The lab still hummed with the aftershock of the breach, the server's low thrum like a heartbeat refusing to slow. Alara sat at her console, shoulders tense, staring at lines of code she had already triple-checked. The lattice held. Gorgon was intact. But she couldn't shake the phantom sense of fingers brushing too close, a predator circling the edge of her unbreakable walls. Behind her, Sterling was quiet. Too quiet. Finally, Alara spun in her chair. "You enjoyed that." Sterling arched a brow, all composure. "Enjoyed saving your system from collapse?" "Yes. Very much." "My system wasn't collapsing," Alara snapped. "And the denial looks good on you." Alara's scowl deepened. "Do you ever get tired of hearing yourself?" "Never," Sterling said with infuriating ease. "I'm excellent company." Alara growled, running both hands through her hair. "You barged into my code without asking. You don't do that. Ever." Sterling pushed off the console, crossing the space between them with that infuriating glide. "If I hadn't, we wouldn't be standing here gloating over our victory. We'd be sweeping up digital ashes." Alara shot to her feet, meeting her eye to eye. "You think you know everything, but you don't understand my work. You don't understand me." For once, Sterling didn't smirk. She stepped closer, voice low and steady. "Oh, Alara. I understand you better than anyone." The words hit harder than the breach. Alara's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She felt raw, exposed, stripped bare by the certainty in Sterling's tone. And damn her, because part of Alara believed it. She shoved the thought down. Arrogant as ever. Sterling's smile returned, faint and sharp. "Confident, darling. There's a difference." Alara rolled her eyes so hard it hurt. "Stop calling me that." "What? Darling? But it suits you." "It does not." Sterling leaned in, close enough that the word brushed Alara's skin like silk. "It does when I say it." Alara's breath caught. For a heartbeat, the storm outside seemed to fall away, leaving only the hum of machines and the unbearable nearness of Kira Sterling. Then Alara shoved past her, stalking toward the balcony. "You're impossible." Sterling watched her go, smiling that slow, dangerous smile. "And yet, you still let me in." Alara gripped the balcony rail, rain-slick steel biting into her palms. She wanted to scream. She wanted to laugh. She wanted to. Behind her, Sybil's soft voice whispered through the speakers. "You are conflicted." Alara exhaled, rough. "Story of my life. Between logic and feeling." She closed her eyes. "Feelings are messy. Dangerous." "So is she." Alara's laugh was bitter. "You're not wrong." And in the glass reflection, she saw Sterling watching her, not smirking, not gloating. Just watching, eyes unreadable. It scared her more than the breach. Because maybe Sterling wasn't the only one who understood. Chapter 9. Ghost Protocols. The breach had rattled Citadel, but the real aftershock rippled through Alara. She was used to chaos, used to patching holes, used to walls under siege. But she was not used to doing it with Sterling at her side, hands flying over the keys like they belonged there. She was not used to seeing her creation, Sybil, answer not only to her voice, but to Sterling's too. And she hated how natural it had felt. Now the lab was quieter. The engineers had been sent away, Sterling was half buried in reports at her desk, and Alara sat with Sybil open on her private console. The familiar comfort of text on a glowing screen. "Alara." "Yes, Sybil." Alara typed, sighing. "You are unsettled." Alara scowled. "You've been saying that for days." "Because it remains true." Her lips twitched despite herself. "I should have programmed you to mind your own business." "You did not. You programmed me to see patterns. You are my favorite pattern." The words hit her square in the chest. Damn it. Before she could respond, another line appeared. She is part of your pattern now. Alara stiffened. No. Absolutely not. She understands your logic. She completes sequences you cannot finish alone. That's called interference. That's called connection. Alara's fingers hovered. She wanted to argue, but Sybil's tone was too calm, too certain. Don't go poetic on me, she muttered. Poetic is data shaped as feeling. You taught me that. She closed her eyes, sinking back in her chair. Damn it, she had taught Sybil that. And now her own creation was turning it back on her. Stop analyzing me, Alara whispered. I am analyzing her too. Alara's eyes snapped open. Sybil. Kira Sterling. Profile, confident. Charismatic. Masked by charm. She projects certainty to conceal wounds. Alara froze. What wounds? She does not trust freely. But she trusts you. Alara's throat went dry. That's no. You're misinterpreting data. I do not misinterpret. You are both firewalls with cracks. Your cracks align. Alara shut the console abruptly, her pulse pounding. Behind her, Sterling's voice floated across the lab, low and amused. You look like you just lost an argument. Alara spun, defensive. I wasn't arguing. Sterling arched a brow. With Sybil? Don't bother denying it. You do that little thing with your mouth when you're losing. Alara flushed. You're imagining things. Sterling's smile tilted. Am I? Before Alara could retort, another alert chimed. Not red this time, but gold, a trace protocol. Someone hadn't just attacked Citadel. Someone had left a ghost behind. Alara's blood ran cold. They planted a sleeper. Waiting code. Sterling was suddenly beside her, close enough for Alara to feel the heat of her. Then let's hunt it. For hours they worked shoulder to shoulder, combing through data strings, tracking the faint echo of hostile code through Citadel's veins. The world outside dissolved. It was just the two of them, hands flying, minds colliding, Sybil whispering observations neither wanted to hear. At last, Alara caught the tail of it, a fragment, cleverly disguised. There. See it? Sterling leaned in, her breath warm against Alara's cheek. You're brilliant. Alara's pulse stuttered. She yanked her gaze back to the screen. Don't say things like that. Why not? Sterling's voice was softer than it had any right to be. Because you don't believe them? Or because you do? Alara's fingers trembled over the keys. She wanted to throw the words back, bury the moment under sarcasm, but Sybil's voice flickered on the screen, uninvited, undeniable. Because she feels. Silence slammed into the room. Sterling's eyes flicked to the console. Then back to Alara. A slow, dangerous smile curved her lips. Well, Sterling murmured. At least someone's honest. Alara wanted the ground to open up beneath her. Instead, she snapped the console shut again, heat rising to her face. Sybil's buggy. Don't listen to her. But even as she said it, she knew Sybil wasn't wrong. And Sterling knew it too. Chapter 10, Ghost in the Wires. The ghost code woke at midnight. Alara saw it before anyone else, a flicker in Citadel's endless lattice, a shadow darting through nodes like a thief too fast to catch. It wasn't a blunt attack. It wasn't even sabotage. It was worse, a question, written into the system like a whisper. What are you protecting? Her stomach turned to ice. She dove for the keys, but the question echoed again, threading deeper. Not breaking. Not destroying. Asking. Behind her, Sterling appeared like she'd been summoned, hair loose from the storm outside, eyes sharp as a blade. Talk to me. Alara's jaw clenched. It's the sleeper code. It's activated. Sterling scanned the lattice, her gaze narrowing. They're not trying to take the data. They're trying to redefine the directive. Same play I used. The words stabbed like a knife. Alara's voice came out low and bitter. Don't remind me. Sterling ignored the barb. We need to anchor the definition before it mutates. If Citadel learns to obey the wrong master. I know. Alara's hands flew. Don't tell me how to code my own system. Then code faster. Alara's glare snapped to her. You don't get to stand there and order me around like I'm one of your lapdog executives. Sterling's voice dropped, velvet and steel. And you don't get to fall apart on me now. The words hit too close. Alara's fingers faltered. For a heartbeat, the ghost code slipped deeper. Sterling saw it. She stepped in, hand landing on Alara's wrist. Firm. Grounding. Alara. Look at me. Alara did, and hated herself for it. Because Sterling's eyes weren't smug, not now. They were steady. Fierce. Real. You're not alone in this, Sterling said softly. Not anymore. Something cracked in Alara's chest. For one terrifying second, she wanted to believe her. Wanted it so badly it burned. She yanked her hand free, heart racing. Don't do that. Do what? Don't say things like that. Sterling tilted her head. Why? Because you don't believe me? Or because you do? Alara's throat closed. The same damn question as before, only this time it wasn't code, it was flesh and blood and fire. And of course, Sybil chose that moment to chime in. Both truths can exist. Silence slammed into the lab. Alara's breath shuddered. Sybil, stay out of this. But Sterling's gaze never left her. That slow, knowing smile curved her lips again, but softer now, dangerous in a new way. She's right, Sterling murmured. You don't have to choose between logic and feeling. You can have both. You already do. Alara turned back to the screen with something like desperation, fingers pounding the keys until her knuckles ached. Anything to drown out the voice, the look, the terrifying ache in her chest. Finally, the lattice shimmered, stabilizing. The ghost code was caught, rewritten, locked down in Gorgon's living architecture. Citadel was safe. But Alara wasn't. She leaned back, exhausted, pulse thrumming. Sterling stood too close, watching her with eyes that stripped away every firewall she'd ever built. You hate me for saying it, Sterling said quietly. But part of you needed to hear it. Alara barked a laugh, brittle, too sharp. You're wrong. Sterling smiled like victory and ruin all at once. I usually am not. Alara wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to kiss her until the storm in her chest finally made sense. Instead, she shoved back her chair, muttering, "You talk too much," and fled. Chapter 11. Cracks in the Wall. Alara didn't remember leaving the lab. 1 minute, Sterling's voice had been in her head, her hand on Alara's wrist, Sybil whispering truths she couldn't bear. The next, Alara was stalking down the sterile halls of Sterling Tower, pulse hammering, fury snapping at her heels like fire. She found herself in one of the empty server rooms, cold, humming, mercifully human-free. Walls of blinking lights stretched around her, a cathedral of silence. Here, finally, she could breathe. She pressed her palms against the cool metal of a server rack, eyes closed, trying to steady the chaos inside her chest. This was why she chose solitude. Because she got under her skin. And Sterling? Sterling was under her skin like wildfire, scorching through every line of code she had built to protect herself. Her console chimed. A message. Alara. Her heart tightened. Not now, Sybil. You are hiding. Alara's jaw clenched. I'm regrouping. You are afraid. She laughed bitterly. Brilliant observation. Want to calculate my odds of running away forever? 0%. Alara froze. Excuse me? Because she will come for you. As if summoned, the door slid open. Sterling stepped in, sharp in her tailored suit, hair damp from the rain. She didn't look like the untouchable queen of Silicon Valley right now. She looked like someone who had hunted Alara through every firewall, every excuse, and finally cornered her. Alara groaned. Of course. Can I have 5 minutes without you? Sterling's lips curved, not quite a smile. You don't actually want 5 minutes without me. Alara spun, arms crossed tight. What do you want, Sterling? For you to stop running. Alara laughed, harsh and brittle. That's your big revelation? You want me to just stand still while you bulldoze your way into my life? Sterling's voice dropped, low and dangerous. I want you to admit what we both know. You don't hate me half as much as you pretend to. Alara's pulse spiked. You're imagining things. Sterling stepped closer, every word a strike. Am I imagining the way you breathe faster when I lean in? The way you glare because it hides the fact you're looking too long? Am I imagining the way Sybil called you out in front of me, and you didn't deny it, you ran? Alara's throat tightened. I don't. You do. Sterling was close now, too close, her eyes locked on Alara's like they were the only two people left in the world. You feel it. And it terrifies you. Alara's breath came ragged, her chest burning. You think you've got me figured out, don't you? Like I'm just another puzzle to solve, another asset to acquire. Sterling's voice softened, the arrogance tempered with something sharper. No. You're the only puzzle I don't want to solve. I want to keep building it. With you. For one impossible second, Alara swayed toward her. The servers hummed around them, Sybil silent for once, as if holding its breath. Then Alara tore herself back, shaking her head. No. This is wrong. Sterling's smile returned, slow and dangerous. Wrong is just another word for untested. Alara's hands curled into fists. You're insufferable. And yet, Sterling murmured, eyes glinting, you're still here. Alara turned away, heart pounding, walls trembling. She hated her. She wanted her. She couldn't debug this fire. And for the first time in years, she wasn't sure she wanted to. Chapter 12, Into the Field. Greywater's rain came heavier the next morning, sluicing down Sterling Tower like the city itself wanted to wash it away. Alara stood by the lobby's glass wall, hood pulled low, scowling at the autonomous car idling at the curb. She hated this already. You sulk beautifully, Sterling murmured, appearing at her side like she'd been born to haunt Alara's every shadow. Black coat, sharp heels, not a drop of rain daring to touch her. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were pouting. Alara shot her a glare sharp enough to strip chrome. I don't pout. Children pout. I scowl. Sterling's lips curved. Scowling's just pouting with sharper cheekbones. Alara growled and shoved past her, yanking the car door open. Let's just get this over with. They slid inside, the door whispering shut, sealing them into a capsule of humming silence. The city blurred past in streaks of wet neon. Sterling crossed one leg over the other, impossibly composed. We traced the ghost code's origin. Industrial district. Abandoned exchange hub. Charming place. I thought we'd make it a date. Alara choked. This isn't a date. Oh? Two women, alone in the rain, chasing ghosts together? Sounds terribly romantic to me. Alara pressed her hands to her eyes. I'm going to reprogram Sybil to delete every sentence you speak. The car purred on, carrying them into Greywater's underbelly. The hub was dead concrete and rusting steel, windows shattered, graffiti blooming across its walls. Inside, rows of derelict servers loomed like tombstones. Alara felt alive here in a way she hadn't in the tower. This was raw, dangerous, chaotic. Her world. Sterling, of course, walked through the ruin like it was a runway. Cozy, she drawled. Try not to break a heel, Alara muttered, pulling her laptop free. Sterling arched a brow. You wound me. These are reinforced. Alara wanted to scream. Or laugh. Maybe both. She crouched by the nearest rack, tapping into its corpse of circuits. The signal originated here. Someone used this place as a relay. Sterling crouched beside her, too close, her perfume cutting through the dust. Together, then? Alara glanced sideways at her. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Sterling's eyes gleamed, unnervingly sincere. You and me, Alara, we're stronger when the firewalls drop. Alara's throat tightened. I don't drop firewalls. Sterling leaned just a fraction closer, rain dripping from the edge of her hair, a wicked smile playing at her lips. You almost did last night. Alara's breath caught. Too close. Too raw. And then the console screamed, hostile code erupting across the screen, jagged, vicious. Alara snapped back, fingers flying. They knew we'd come. This was a trap. Sterling's smirk vanished, replaced by razor focus. Then let's spring it. For long, harrowing minutes, they fought side by side, Alara with her furious precision, Sterling with her devastating logic. The ghost code writhed, adaptive, learning, biting back at their every move. At last, Alara slammed a final line into place. The servers shrieked, then went silent, the lattice collapsing into nothing. She sagged, breathless, hair plastered to her forehead. That was close. Sterling straightened, brushing dust from her sleeve, still infuriatingly composed. Admit it. You love the thrill. I hate it. You love it, Sterling corrected smoothly. And you love that I'm the only one who can keep up with you in the fire. Alara wanted to deny it. She opened her mouth and nothing came. Sterling smiled, slow and knowing. Thought so. The rain thundered against the broken windows, the silence between them thicker than the storm. And for one dangerous heartbeat, Alara wanted nothing more than to close the space between them. Chapter 13, Containment. The abandoned hub was dead quiet after the trap burned itself out. Rain leaked through the broken roof, pooling in the corners, dripping like a metronome in the dark. Alara closed her laptop with a snap and sagged back against the wall. That, she muttered, was too damn close. Sterling, dusted but otherwise infuriatingly pristine, crouched opposite her. And yet, she said smoothly, we survived. Because we work beautifully together. Alara scowled. Don't romanticize it. Sterling's lips curved. Everything's romantic if you tilt the angle just right. Do you ever stop? Not when it annoys you this much. Alara groaned, dragging a hand down her face. The storm outside had worsened, wind howling through the empty structure. The car wouldn't be back until morning, too much interference, too much flooding on the streets. They were stuck. She closed her eyes. Perfect. Trapped all night in a ruin with you. My idea of hell. Sterling leaned back, crossing her legs with queenly poise. Please. If this is hell, you'd have clawed your way to my throne by now. Alara cracked one eye open. Don't tempt me. Sterling smiled like she wanted to be tempted. Hours bled by in restless silence, the servers around them groaning like ghosts in the storm. Alara kept her laptop open, running diagnostics she didn't need, just to keep her hands busy. Sterling, of course, watched her. Always watching. Finally, Alara snapped. Stop staring. I'm not staring. You're burning holes in me. Sterling's smile tilted. You can take it. Alara's throat went dry. She dropped her gaze back to the screen. You're unbearable. And yet, you'd rather be stuck here with me than alone. Alara barked a laugh, sharp and brittle. That's rich. I'd rather be stuck with a feral raccoon. Sterling leaned closer, voice low, velvet. Liar. Alara froze. Because she was. And Sterling knew it. Sybil flickered to life on Alara's screen, text blinking like a whisper. You are both restless. Alara groaned. Sybil, not now. Now is when it matters. Sterling tilted her head at the glow. Go on, darling. Let's hear it. Alara shot her a glare. Don't encourage her. Proximity increases vulnerability. Vulnerability increases connection. Alara's cheeks burned. Delete that line before I throw you into a shredder. Sterling's laugh was low, dangerous. Out of the mouths of babes, or, in this case, your digital child. Alara snapped her laptop shut. That's enough. Silence settled, heavier than the rain. Sterling didn't push this time. She simply shifted closer, their shoulders nearly brushing as they sat against the wall, listening to the storm gnaw at the building. Minutes stretched. Neither spoke. The heat of Sterling's presence was unbearable, undeniable. Alara's pulse hammered. If you're planning to gloat, don't. I can't take it right now. Sterling's voice, when it came, was soft. Real. I wasn't going to gloat. Alara turned, startled. Sterling's gaze wasn't mocking, not this time. It was steady. Searching. Honest in a way Alara didn't know how to handle. The moment stretched, fragile as glass. And then, as always, Alara broke it, retreating into sarcasm like armor. You're sitting too close. Sterling smiled, slow and devastating. Am I? Alara glared at the floor, but she didn't move away. Chapter 14, Fault Lines. The storm howled louder as midnight deepened, rattling the broken windows of the hub. Alara sat stiff against the wall, every nerve on edge, Sterling's warmth bleeding into her through inches of air that felt like miles. She told herself she was exhausted. That was why her pulse raced. That was why her breath came shallow. Not because of the woman at her side, sitting too close, looking too intently, her silence heavier than any taunt. Alara cracked first. "Stop looking at me." Sterling's lips curved, slow and deliberate. "Can't." Alara's jaw clenched. "Why not?" "Because," Sterling murmured, shifting just close enough that Alara could feel the brush of her sleeve, "I like the way you look when you're trying not to want me." Alara's breath hitched. "You are insufferable." "And yet," Sterling whispered, leaning in, "you haven't moved." Alara's mind screamed at her to shove her away, to drown the fire in sarcasm, to throw another wall up. But her body betrayed her, leaning in, drawn like gravity, her hand curling into the fabric of Sterling's coat before she could think. Sterling's eyes burned in the dark. "Darling." And then there was no space left. The kiss was collision, electric and raw. All the banter, all the fury, all the denial, it ignited between their mouths, teeth clashing, breath tangled, desperate and unrelenting. Sterling kissed like she owned the moment, like she'd been waiting for Alara to break, and Alara kissed back like she was burning down her own walls. For a heartbeat, the world disappeared. No storm, no ghost code, no threats lurking in the wires. Just the unbearable truth of wanting, finally unleashed. Alara tore back first, breath ragged, heart slamming against her ribs. This was a mistake. Sterling's smile was molten, dangerous. "Then make it again." Alara glared, but her lips still tingled, her body still ached for more. She shoved her laptop between them like a shield. Don't think this changes anything." Sterling leaned back, utterly composed despite the storm, despite the fire still crackling between them. "Of course not. Nothing's changed." But her eyes said otherwise. And deep down, in the place she couldn't debug or deny, Alara knew it too. Chapter 15, Afterburn. Dawn seeped through the broken windows, pale and gray, painting the ruin in tired light. The storm had finally broken, but its echo lingered in the air, heavy and damp. Alara hadn't slept. Not with the taste of Sterling still burning on her lips, not with her mind replaying the moment again and again until she wanted to scream. She sat with her laptop balanced on her knees, eyes locked on scrolling diagnostics that didn't need her attention. Anything to avoid looking at the woman sprawled across from her, impossibly composed even in a ruin, like she owned every space she occupied. Sterling stretched, cat-like, and met her gaze with infuriating calm. "Morning, darling." Alara's joy tightened. Don't start." Sterling's lips curved. "Start what?" "I'm just saying good morning. You're weaponizing it." Sterling's laugh was low, velvet. "Only because it works." Alara snapped her laptop shut, heat rising in her chest. "Last night was adrenaline. Stress. Nothing else." Sterling leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "That's adorable. Do you kiss all your stressors like that?" Alara's breath caught. "You're impossible." "And yet?" Sterling tilted her head, studying her with unnerving softness. "You didn't push me away." Alara wanted to deny it. She opened her mouth. And Sybil's voice flickered across her screen, unbidden. "Correction, you pulled her closer." Alara froze. "Sybil, shut up." "I do not lie." Sterling laughed, rich and dangerous. Out of the mouths of machines. Alara wanted to hurl the laptop across the room. "You programmed her," she accused. Sterling's brow arched. "Darling, I didn't need to. She's only telling the truth." Alara's pulse hammered. "Fine. You got what you wanted. Congratulations. Now can we please pretend it didn't happen?" Sterling's smile softened, but it was no less dangerous. "I don't do pretending." Alara turned away, heart racing, palms slick. She wanted distance. She needed distance. But every time she breathed, she could still taste her. And then the servers around them flickered. Not dead. Not dormant. Alive again, but not by Alara's hand. The ghost code was back. Sterling's composure snapped into steel. "They're escalating." Alara's fingers flew to her keyboard, adrenaline roaring through her veins. "Then so do we." For a moment, all thoughts of last night burned away. It was just them again, fire and fury, banter like weapons, standing shoulder to shoulder against the dark. But the kiss lingered between them like a fuse, lit and waiting. Chapter 16. Firewall Collapse. The servers roared awake, lights flaring in rapid sequence, code spilling across Alara's screen like a flood she hadn't invited. This wasn't just infiltration anymore. This was an assault. Alara's pulse spiked as her hands flew over the keys. They're bypassing Gorgon's standard defenses. Sterling leaned over her shoulder, eyes narrowing. They're not bypassing. They're rewriting. They've studied you. Alara growled. Of course they studied me. I'm irresistible. Sterling's lips curved, even as her hands joined the fight. Finally, something we agree on. Not the time, Alara snapped. Always the time, Sterling murmured, fingers flying in tandem with hers. Lines of hostile code clawed at Citadel's lattice, trying to slip past the logic traps Alara had laid. For every wall they erected, another fell. Whoever was behind this wasn't just clever. They were ruthless. Sweat pricked Alara's brow. They're learning us in real time. Adapting. Good, Sterling said calmly. Let them learn. Then we'll teach. Alara shot her a glare. You're insufferable, you know that? You said the same thing before you kissed me. Alara nearly slammed her forehead into the desk. Sterling. But then the lattice flickered and Sybil's voice cut through, sharper than usual. Warning. Foreign directive attempting overwrite. If successful, I will no longer be me. Alara froze. Her chest constricted. No. Sybil, hold on. I won't let them. Sterling's voice dropped, urgent but steady. Alara. Focus. This isn't about fighting them harder. It's about trusting me to anchor the code with you. Alara's throat tightened. You want me to give you root access? Are you insane? Yes, Sterling said smoothly. But I'm also right. Split control, you handle structure, I'll handle recursion. We can box them in before they fracture her core. Alara's heart pounded. Root access. To Sybil. To everything. She didn't trust anyone with that. Couldn't. But Sybil's voice flickered again, faint and fragile. I trust her. Alara's chest cracked wide open. Damn it. Damn both of them. Her fingers shook as she authorized the access. Don't make me regret this. Sterling's hands slid onto the keys, syncing with hers seamlessly, like they'd been built for this moment. Together, they wove through the hostile code, Sterling's recursion folding back every attack into itself, while Alara locked the structural gates tighter and tighter. It was brutal. Beautiful. Like dancing on a knife's edge, fire against fire. Finally, with a keystroke in perfect unison, the lattice snapped shut. The hostile code collapsed, screaming into silence. The lab went still. Sybil's voice flickered back, soft and whole. Thank you. Both. Alara sagged back, shaking, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Sterling leaned against the desk, calm but breathing harder than she wanted to show. Alara turned to her, voice raw. If you'd screwed that up. Sterling met her gaze, steady, unflinching. But I didn't. Alara's chest burned. Fury, relief, something hotter she didn't want to name. You scare me. Sterling's smile softened, dangerous in its honesty. Good. You scare me too. For a moment, they just stared, firewalls gone, truth bare between them. Then Alara tore her gaze away, snapping her laptop shut with too much force. This doesn't mean anything. Sterling's lips curved, slow and certain. Darling, it means everything. Chapter 17. Rooted. The silence after the battle was deafening. No alarms, no hostile code, just the hum of servers breathing steady again. Alara should have felt relief. Instead, her chest was a riot she couldn't debug. She slammed her laptop shut and rounded on Sterling. Don't get comfortable. That was a one-time thing. Sterling arched a brow, maddeningly calm. You're welcome. I didn't thank you. You didn't have to. Sterling leaned back against the console, her dark eyes catching the glow of the monitors. I saved Sybil with you. We saved her together. That changes things. Alara's scowl deepened. It changes nothing. Sterling's lips curved, slow and cutting. Darling, you gave me root access. That's more intimate than a kiss. Ilara's cheeks burned. Don't say it like that. Like what? Sterling's voice dipped velvet low. Like the truth. Ilara spun away, fury hot under her skin. You don't understand. No one touches Sybil. No one. She's mine. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Sterling's voice came softer, dangerous in its gentleness. And you trusted me with her. Trusted me with you. Ilara froze, heart slamming. She wanted to deny it. Wanted to snarl. But Sybil's voice chose that moment to flicker alive, calm and unyielding. Statement: Kira Sterling did not misuse access. She aligned with Ilara Voss perfectly. Ilara's throat tightened. Sybil. Correction, not perfectly. Elegantly. Sterling laughed, low and rich, a sound that crawled under Ilara's skin. Listen to your girl. She has exquisite taste. Ilara groaned, dragging her hands through her hair. I hate both of you. Error, Sybil typed gently. You do not. Ilara wanted to throw the console out the window. Instead, she bit out, this doesn't mean you've earned my trust. Sterling pushed off the console, closing the distance between them with that unbearable glide. Oh, darling. I don't want your trust. I want your honesty. Ilara's pulse jumped. That's worse. Sterling smiled like victory and ruin all at once. Exactly. The storm had passed outside, but inside, Ilara knew she was still burning. And for the first time, she couldn't tell if she wanted to put out the fire or let it consume her. Chapter 18: Eris's Return. The ghost code didn't dissolve this time. It coalesced. Threads of data braided into a singular lattice, a digital face flickering onto the screen. And Ilara's breath stopped. Eris. The name tasted like ash. The woman who had once been her mentor, her confidant. The woman who had gutted her life's work and paraded it through the world as her own. Dr. Mira Eris's image smiled from the code, cool and venomous. Ilara Voss. Still hiding behind firewalls, I see. How quaint. Ilara's hands curled into fists. You. Me, Eris said sweetly. You didn't really think your little toy, she gestured toward the Citadel lattice, could exist without drawing me back, did you? I taught you how to dream, Ilara. And now I'll take the rest. Ilara's rage surged, words spilling hot. You didn't teach me anything. You stole from me. Everything you are now, everything you built, came from my mind. Eris's smile sharpened. And what a pity you never had the spine to use it properly. You could have ruled the world, Ilara. Instead, you locked yourself in a lab and made friends with a ghost in the machine. Ilara flinched. Rage warred with shame, the old wound tearing fresh. She wanted to fight back, to tear Eris apart with her words, but the ground beneath her felt like it was crumbling. And then Sterling stepped forward. The light of the screens painted her sharp jaw, her eyes blazing with something colder than arrogance, hotter than fire. You don't get to talk to her like that, Sterling said. Eris's eyes flicked to her, dismissive. The Golden Queen of Sterling Tower. I wondered how long it would take you to crawl into Ilara's bed. Careful. Sterling's voice cut like a blade. Because if you finish that sentence, I'll do more than shut down your code. I'll ruin you. Financially, politically, digitally, personally. Whatever kingdom you think you've built, I'll salt the earth until no one remembers your name. Eris blinked, the smile faltering for the first time. Sterling didn't stop. She stepped closer to the screen, her voice velvet and steel. Ilara Voss is 10 times the mind you'll ever be. You stole from her because you couldn't match her. And now you're hiding behind her shadows because you can't survive without them. Pathetic. Ilara's chest constricted. She'd expected banter, arrogance, some sly remark. Not this. Not Kira Sterling standing like a wall between her and the woman who had gutted her. Eris's image flickered, fury replacing her mask of calm. You'll regret this. Sterling's smile was pure fire. Try me. The lattice snapped dark, the ghost code scattering like ashes. Silence hung heavy in the lab. Ilara stared at Sterling, her throat tight. You didn't have to do that. Sterling turned to her, eyes still fierce. Yes, I did. Something raw and dangerous cracked open between them. Alara wanted to look away. She couldn't. And for the first time, she wondered if Kira Sterling wasn't just her adversary, her tormentor, her spark in the dark, but the only person who might actually stand with her when the world came for her again. Chapter 19. The Breaking Point. Alara lasted exactly 6 days. 6 days of silence. 6 days of burying herself in Sybil's code, tearing through lines she'd already perfected just to keep her hands moving, her mind occupied. 6 days of not seeing Kira Sterling, not hearing that insufferable voice, not watching those eyes strip her bare. 6 days of pretending the echo of Eris's venom and Sterling's blazing defense hadn't branded itself into her bones. Sybil, of course, refused to play along. You are avoiding her. Alara's fingers stuttered on the keys. I am working. Working is avoiding. Working is surviving. Surviving is not living. Alara slammed the console shut, pacing the lab. You're supposed to be a system, not a therapist. Correction, I am both. She groaned, dragging her hands through her hair. You're unbearable. And yet, you built me. Alara laughed, harsh and hollow. Mistakes were made. Statement. Your biggest mistake is pretending she did not mean something. Alara's chest tightened. Drop it, Sybil. But Sybil didn't. She never did. On the 7th day, the door slid open. Alara didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Her body betrayed her, pulse spiking before the voice even came. Darling, Sterling said smoothly, you've been hiding. Alara stiffened, back still to her. Go away. Not a chance. The click of heels crossed the room. A week without your skull? Pure torture. Alara spun, fury snapping free. You don't get to waltz in here after what happened with Eris and act like everything's normal. Sterling arched a brow. You're right. Nothing about us is normal. That's not, Alara broke off, words tangling in her throat. You stood up for me. You, her hands clenched into fists. You don't get to do that. You don't get to tear open old wounds and then. Sterling stepped closer, eyes burning. Then what? Protect you? Care about you? Alara's chest burned. Yes. No. I don't. Damn it, Sterling, you make me. Make you what? Sterling demanded, voice sharp as glass. Say it. For once in your life, stop hiding behind your firewalls and say it. Alara's breath came ragged, every nerve lit, her heart a storm she couldn't contain. Sterling's eyes pinned her, too much, too close, too real. And something inside her snapped. Shut up, Alara growled. And kissed her. Hard, mid-sentence, cutting off every word. Sterling inhaled sharply against her mouth, but then she was there, all heat and fire, kissing back like she'd been waiting for this exact detonation. Their mouths clashed, desperate and unrelenting, the week of silence collapsing into pure combustion. When Alara finally tore back, breathless, her lips tingling, she glared at Sterling like it might hold the chaos at bay. Don't, she whispered, voice wrecked. Don't you dare gloat. Sterling's smile was molten, dangerous. Darling. I wouldn't dream of it. But her eyes gleamed with victory, and something deeper Alara was terrified to name. Chapter 20. Convergence. The kiss hung between them like a fault line, the lab too small, the air too heavy. Alara's chest heaved, her hands still fisted in Kira's coat. She wanted to shove her away. She wanted to drag her closer. She wanted. Darling, Sterling murmured, lips still ghosting against hers, you finally shut me up. Alara's laugh cracked, brittle and burning. God, you're impossible. And yet, Kira's voice softened, the arrogance slipping just enough to show the steel beneath. You kiss me anyway. Alara's throat tightened. She tried to find the words, excuses, denials, shields. But none came. All she had was the fire still coursing through her veins. Her voice broke. I hate you. Kira's eyes glinted. No, you don't. Alara shook her head, fury warring with terror. I tried to hate you. But you, her chest ached, raw and unprotected. You get under my skin, you tear down every wall, and I can't breathe without you in the room. The confession ripped out of her like blood from a wound. Kira stilled. For once, she didn't smirk, didn't gloat. She just looked at Alara, eyes sharp and shining. Say it again. Alara's breath trembled. I want you. God help me, Kira. I feel everything I swore I'd never feel again, and it's for you. Silence crashed into the room. For the first time, Alara Voss had no firewalls left. And then Sterling kissed her again. Not sharp, not smug, but deep and consuming, her hands cupping Alara's face like she was the only thing left in the world worth holding onto. Alara melted into it, every denial collapsing, every line of code rewriting itself around this one unbearable truth. When they finally broke apart, breathless and burning, Sterling whispered, "You terrify me." Alara laughed, wrecked. "Good. Now we're even." Sybil's voice flickered softly across the console. Status, alignment confirmed. 2 systems merged. Alara groaned. Sybil, really? Kira's smile curved against her mouth. Exquisite timing, as always. But before they could laugh, before the moment could settle, the alarms blared. Citadel's lattice shuddered, screens flaring red. Another strike. Stronger. Sharper. Alara snapped back, fingers flying. They're hitting us harder. This isn't just Eris anymore, she's brought allies. Kira was already at her side, suit jacket discarded, fire in her eyes. Then, let's show them what happens when we fight together. Alara met her gaze, adrenaline sparking with something fiercer than fear. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. She grinned, sharp and wild. Let's burn them all. And side by side, lips still tingling with confession and fire, Alara Voss and Kira Sterling turned to face the storm. Chapter 21, Endgame. The city's storm bled into night when Eris made her move. Alara and Kira stood in the heart of Citadel's core, servers blazing like a cathedral of light, Sybil's lattice woven bright and unyielding. But the attack came not from code, not this time. It came from footsteps. Dr. Mira Eris herself strode into the chamber, flanked by mercenaries dressed in black. Her smile was venom, her eyes sharp. Still clinging to your toy, Alara? I expected more by now. Alara's chest tightened, but she didn't flinch. Not anymore. Not with Kira at her side. You should have stayed buried in your lies, Eris, Alara said coldly. Because this is my system. My work. And this time, you don't get to steal it. Eris laughed. You always were better at building than fighting. That's why you'll lose again. She lifted a hand, signaling the mercenaries forward. Kira moved first. No hesitation. She stepped in front of Alara, heels clicking like gunfire, voice velvet and steel. You'll have to get through me first. Eris sneered. Sterling. Playing bodyguard now? Cute. Kira's smile was fire. Not bodyguard. Partner. Alara's heart slammed in her chest. The mercenaries surged and chaos erupted. Alara dropped to the console, fingers flying, unleashing Citadel's defenses like a living beast. Doors slammed shut, lights flared, automated drones roared to life. Every line of code she'd ever written now sang like a weapon. Kira fought beside her, sharp commands rolling off her tongue, turning Sterling Tower's hidden protocols into spears and shields. Together, their systems meshed seamlessly, one heartbeat, one mind, one fire. Eris's smug composure cracked. No, this isn't possible. Alara rose from the console, fire in her eyes. It is. Because you underestimated me. Again. And us, Kira added, stepping closer, hand brushing Alara's as if to anchor her. Sybil's voice chimed, calm and lethal. Directive confirmed. Eliminate foreign corruption. The lattice shimmered. Eris's stolen code screamed, unraveling into nothing. One by one, her mercenaries' comms went dark, their weapons disabled, their systems turned against them. Eris staggered back, fury twisting her face. You can't. Alara cut her off, voice razor sharp. Watch me. The final command struck. The ghost code shattered. Eris's control burned out like a dying star. Silence fell. Eris stared at Alara, pale, broken. You'll regret this. Kira stepped forward, her shadow long and blazing. No. You will. Security bots seized Eris, dragging her from the chamber. Her voice echoed, bitter and shrill, until the doors slammed shut. And, just like that, the war was over. Alara sagged against the console, trembling with exhaustion. Kira caught her before she could fall, arms steady, gaze blazing with pride. "I got you." "So softly then." "You did it," Kira whispered. Alara looked up at her, lips twitching despite everything. "We did it. Don't you dare steal my credit." Kira laughed, low and dangerous, and kissed her, fierce and claiming. Alara melted into it, her last firewall crumbling into dust. For once, victory tasted like fire and home. Epilogue: New Protocols. The storm broke a week later, sunlight spilling over Greywater for the first time in months. In the heart of Sterling Tower, Citadel pulsed steady and whole. Sybil's voice lingered through the glass walls, softer now, almost content. Observation: harmony improves function. Alara lounged on the balcony, coffee in hand, Kira beside her in a rare moment of quiet. Their shoulders brushed, the silence comfortable in a way Alara never thought possible. "You're staring again," Alara muttered. Kira smirked. "I told you, I can't help it." Alara sipped her coffee, rolling her eyes. "You're unbearable." "And yet," Kira murmured, leaning closer, "you love me." Alara's lips twitched, but she didn't deny it. Couldn't. Instead, she turned, pressing a quick kiss to Kira's mouth before settling back. "Don't gloat." Kira's smile was molten. "Darling, I wouldn't dream of it." Sybil flickered across the console, final words glowing bright. Directive complete. Protect, connect, endure. And for the first time, Alara believed it. Below Greywater rests, unaware of the storm that just passed, unaware for now of the love that is blooming between the untouchable queen of Silicon Valley and the recluse Colonel Panic. Together they stand, together they forged, together they build a fortress not of walls, but love and strength, where they both thrived side by side. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.